I guess the amount of detail that I was putting out in my last video was too much for this multiverse to handle now. Do I have a plug over by my thing there? Anyway, I'll walk and talk. I like telling my story, to hear myself tell my story, because after 9 years of amnesia, whatever the calculation is, it's really nice to have these memories back. It's really nice to be able to put everything in chronological order for myself. So, I'll wander over to my office here. I think there's a plug over here. Modem jack in the wall. Modem jack in the wall. There it is. I got the piano plugged in. So, I just did a beautiful live, and I'm not sure what happened. Well, I know exactly what happened. I got messaged by Iron Man agreeing to do my podcast. I got Iron Man coming on. I'm doing the Tech Master. That sounds weird. Sorry, Matt Damon, I'm fucking Batman. That sounds better. Anyway. So, I got to sit down with my mom there. And I got to tell her the story about how Anastasia was born. I got to tell her about how... Oh, hey! Now I get to have a live with my other mom. That's amazing. Are you ready for story time? I just did the most intimate conversation and the most emotionally dense live I have ever done in my entire life. See, Deb, oh, okay. You get to go back in time even further here. Before Anastasia, poop, wrong woman. Before her mother, Phoenix, and I had Anastasia, we were hanging out here at my mom's house, and my mom was asking through my story there, oh my god, you've been through this, and you've been through that, and you've been in jail, and you've had your head injury, and 6 years of amnesia, and this, what, where was I? I couldn't tell her this part, I'll tell you this part. So, there's a class action lawsuit against the doctors who gave people like my mom Oxycontin. And my mom got real decked out on Oxycontin 20 years ago, and I ended up being arrested by the fucking bomb squad and interviewed for links to Al-Qaeda. And because of the turmoil and nobody understanding what the hell was going on, they just kind of said, stay away from your mom until she gets better. And henceforth, for the last 20 years, we haven't really spoken until I ended up here 3 weeks ago. So, I just got really excited and really happy because I got to sit down with her and tell her my life story as to where I've been for the last 10 years. And Deborah, I don't think you know how Anastasia ended up with her speech impediment, or where I got my head injury from, how I became a grade A class registered felon, and why I was in a maximum security facility for a year and a half, doing a year on house arrest, and $250,000 spent on legal fees to have my trial that cost $10,000 to get the transcripts and the person at the trial to admit, sure, we dated, but nothing happened when we were underage. And my lawyer started pulling his hair out of his head, and he goes, "Holy shit, you went through all that for nothing." So, are you ready for how I met Ashley and ended up being a how did I say it to my mom there? Holistic health healer. We're gonna go with that. So, when after I had my incident here with my mom, Phoenix and her mom had a tiff and a falling out too. We ended up at my dad's house. And at the time, I kept insisting she was not the right person to have a family with. And she kept insisting that she loved me enough that she wanted to give me the ultimate gift that I've always wanted, which was to be a dad. And as the result of the very far and few times that I have chosen to drink since I quit alcohol when I was in high school, we had Anastasia. To surmise it very briefly. And from there, 11 years ago, Christmas time, a combination of we needed to go out on our own, and I guess there is no and. We were parents, we're pregnant, we're going to go out on our own. And as a falling out with my father as well, he made us homeless at Christmas time 11 years ago, and we ended up staying at a hotel. So, at the hotel, there were 2 front desk girls. One got us a home in the apartment that Anastasia was born in, and the pinnacle of like my life story here. And the other was a nutritionist who, well, all our money and food was going to Phoenix to supply for Anastasia. I was living off nothing, and talking to the nutritionist gave me everything that I needed to know how to survive in that situation and make sure that all the food and all the money and all the resources went to Anastasia's mom, and that I would be okay with what I quite literally live off now: peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and grilled cheese and pickles. So we had Anastasia, and there was a complication with her being stuck in the birth canal, essentially. Phoenix is like myself. She's anti-vax, anti-stupid things. And so she disagreed with the epidural, and she did an all-natural birth. And as a result of that, she ended up getting so tense and so clamped. It was like an exorcist. We had 7 people restraining her, 1 on each arm, like tethering her down. I was on the left leg, with my arm looped around the bedpost and clamped to my other hands, and like the Tibetan monks doing the training with the oxes when they're whipping the ox, and one ox is going that way, the other ox is going the other way, and the guy's in the middle holding it like, holy shit. That was just one limb. And baby's heart rates are supposed to be 140 beats per minute. And Anastasia's head began to be crushed, and she started to die. Her heart rate went down to about 70 beats per minute, and they said, get the doctor, something's wrong. And within minutes, her heart rate went down to 53 beats per minute. And they said, we're gonna lose her. You got like 30 seconds, get the vacuum, get her out. She wasn't even crowning. I didn't even know I was looking at the top of my daughter's head and hair. I thought I was still looking at her mother's pubic hair. And they put the vacuum on her head, and the vacuum pump sealed it, and they literally ripped her clean out of her mother in one depth swoop. and my daughter was hanging there by her head like a fish. And I didn't understand at the time that babies are born with this white waxy coating on them, and I thought it looks exactly like when you um like gouge your skin and there's this white dead skin. I thought she was dead. And I collapsed on the floor, and I don't know how long I was down there for until I started hearing Anastasia screaming. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's just in your head. It's just in your head. And I grab my phone and I pop up and I start filming, and she's getting her hair all wiped off and, don't touch me. She was great. Her mother suffered really severe postpartum depression, and I didn't know anything about all this stuff back then. I didn't know about the skin-to-skin imprint that needed to happen, and she didn't bond with her mother. She skin-to-skin imprinted with me. Her mother needed stitches, and I was dad from day one. And they even kept us a little bit longer, 4 days in the hospital, until they took me off to the side, and they're like, there's something going on here. We haven't seen her mother give her any feedings, any changed diapers, haven't seen her hold her, haven't seen her do anything with her. And for some reason in this wonderful country that I'm in, the man was not allowed to be a man. And they refused. We were being held hostage, at least I was, to release us until they saw her do a feeding and do a diaper change. And kind of like a friggin' final test or something in school. It was weird. So, from there, the postpartum depression got violent with me and with Anastasia. I tried to go back to work. I tried to leave my daughter with her mother. And every time they were alone together, it was the same. I would get a phone call anywhere from, I think the record was, I can't even tell you. I left the apartment door and I made it to the lobby. Is how fast this stuff started to hit. And I'd get these texts, get back here, or I'm going to throw the baby off the balcony. The baby's crying, make it stop, or I'm going to throw it into a wall. Or I'll drown it in the washing machine, bippity boppity blue. So, I couldn't work. And from this point on, I made a cosmic commitment that, okay, I'm just going to be a dad from here on forward, period. That is my existence, that is my goal in life, and there is nothing else that I am doing other than raising my daughter. Her mother experienced some really weird psychological things with me too. All the love and attention that she was used to getting now went to our child, and she began to act like she was being cheated on, like me being with another woman. It was very, very peculiar. So, I dipped. It got so vicious and so tumultuous that I would take Anastasia as a newborn baby and I would get on the bus and vanish while her mother was still sleeping. This isn't how we broke up. I'm getting there. I skipped that part with my mom, but I'll go into more details with you. You can handle the gory graphical crap. I did all this as a live too, just now, up there with her, and it glitched at the end and it wouldn't load, so I'm sitting here talking to myself because I'd like, after 6 years of amnesia, to remind myself of my life and who I was supposed to be before the attempted murder that's coming up. So, I met a very beautiful young woman, and let's pretend that this is an alias, and we're going to call her Symphony. She already had one son. Everybody's got super unique names in the story. She already had one son, Raven, hence where I get the sigil of Raven Wolf from. And she would take Anastasia, and she would be Anastasia's mom, while I was having a complete mental breakdown, crying in the background, trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing with my life. Now, her and I, we were only platonic. strictly, simply platonic. However, I couldn't go back to my apartment because of what I was just saying, so I ended up living with her and her boy and the father of his child. And then she had an affair, and not with me. She got pregnant. We're getting to the details. Anyway, got pregnant with her little boy Maddox. And the father of her child didn't know how to be a father of her child, so I took her through the entire pregnancy. And I made her food, and I just had a baby. I wanted a family. I'm supposed to be dad. I was still locked into the dimethyltryptamine overload of being in love and being a dad and everything. So it was super, super natural for me to just step into the role, and now I have 2 kids. Now I have a son and a daughter. Even though the son's not mine. Oh, and she's pregnant with another son, even though he's not mine. So, and it got to the point where she even thought she was miscarrying and started having a period in the middle of the night and needed to go to the hospital. Of course, you think the father of her child, who thought this other child was his too, would take her? No. Told her to wait till morning. Wouldn't do anything. So I was the one who took her to the hospital. I was the one who was dad and a man. And little Maddox was born. And we all hung out together for 2 years. 2.5 years, something like that. Now, again, Symphony and I were strictly platonic. The person I immediately started seeing after Phoenix was Riley, the one who passed away a few months ago. I never raised her son. I was simply the only man she ever let near her son. And we saw each other. However, Riley, the father of her child, had her forced into prostitution, and she knew nothing else. So a committed relationship wasn't exactly our thing. It was more along the lines of the Jesus and Mary Magdalene thing. As far as I'm intrinsically concerned, Lucifer liked his hookers and Jesus liked his hookers, so I don't give 2 intrinsic fucks. I will love you if sex is involved or not. It's not about that for me, anyhow. That actually feels really nice. Symphony, ready for the next names? The next round of really cool names. Symphony had a friend named Sterling. And Sterling already had Lily. So, Anastasia was hanging out with Lily and Raven, and then we brought Maddox into the mix. And I started seeing, well, let's go in chronological order here. Sterling got pregnant with Sage. Not mine. She got pregnant. And when she told Sage's dad, I'm pregnant, we're going to be a family, he dipped and left the country. And they didn't drive. I was the only one with a car. So when Sterling went into labor, I was the one who took her and Symphony to the hospital, and Symphony was there for the birth, and I went home, and then I got called the next day that her and Lily needed a ride home with Sage. Cool. I get to go see the baby. That's fine. I like babies. I'm a dad. And I get to the hospital, and Sterling's in this like knockdown, drag-out argument with the orderly, or whoever you want to call the nurse. Asking for help. She's like, I don't know what to do. I'm a single. And she was horribly, I mean brutally, and I cannot express this enough, agoraphobic. She did not leave the house. Ever. The only time I ever saw her leave the house was when she was blitzed out of her damn mind on benzodiazepines. And that was a nightmare trying to control her when she was that high. Anyhow. I'm just waiting for them to get packed and get in the car, and the nurse gives me this god-awful friggin' challenging look, and she's like, you have no one in your life to help you with these with your kids. And the look on her face, she just thought I was dad. I was some type of deadbeat dad. So I said, fuck you. I'll be dad. So I drove them home. And I moved in, more or less, with Sterling and Lily and Sage and Anastasia. And I raised my 3 daughters for 2.5 years and continued to platonically help out Symphony and Raven and Maddox. And it got to the point where Symphony saw how I was with Sterling and the kids, and she saw the life of bullshit she had with Maddox's dad and Raven's dad, and she said, I can't do this. You guys are so vicious and violent and abusive. I gotta get out. And she asked me if I'd be interested in getting a place together, living common law. I said yes. She made the wonderful mistake of telling Maddox's dad this. So, Maddox's dad ended up with Riley while I was with Sterling, and Riley called me one night, drunk off her goddamn ass. Father's Day, June 15th, 2014, the day I died. I was trying to see where this is going. And she was a drunken mess, and I'll just go in order here. She was telling me how she really, really, really needed to go prostitute herself out to make money for her son's birthday. And she's about to wander around Oshawa, the murder capital of Nazi Canada here, all night, just trying to come up with $100. Just meeting men, exchanging numbers, trying to get clients, so to speak, networking. And I was not about to let her do that. I loved Riley very, very much, and I still do. We left the house at 7 o'clock, and it was about 3:30 in the morning when we weren't back yet. We were still 40-minute walk from the apartment and 40-minute walk to the hospital. So since she was seeing Maddox's dad at the time, he came looking for her, wondering what was going on. And he found me half asleep, sitting on a flower pot outside the Royal Armoury here in Oshawa. And, well, she was making out with the guy that she's trying to get as a client. And a car rolls up behind me, and I hear a door close. And I go to look, what the hell's this about? And essentially, he stunned me. He put me on my left side, so my left arm was pinned. And then he sat on top of my right arm. And he continued to bludgeon my head as a 200-pound man, and myself, 5'5", 108 pounds. And he continued to bludgeon my head until I realized this is going to kill me, and I'm stuck, and I did not know what to do. And when I tried to lift them off me, with all the force I had, guess whose shoulder popped out of its socket and ended up in my nipple? So I was just stuck. Riley comes flying out of nowhere, fucking tackles the asshole off me, so beat the fucking shit out of him. It was great. So she gets him out of there, and I was left as a bloody beaten pulp mess at the side of the road. I took my phone out, took a selfie. I couldn't go home. I knew I needed medical attention, and I was not going to make a 40-minute walk there or to the hospital. The bottom line is, once I got to the hospital and made the police report, they handed me a pen and they asked me to sign my name on it. I didn't know how to use the pen. I couldn't read, I couldn't write. I was one step off from being a fucking vegetable. It took me 3 months to remember my own daughter. It took me 6 months to remember Symphony Sterling, Lily Sage, Raven Maddox, my dad, my grandparents, my mom. Basic family members. And I had full-blown amnesia. And I was told that anything that I remembered within that first year was going to be it I was told I'm going to be susceptible for every brain disease known to man, including Parkinson's disease, and the optometrist said I was supposed to be blinded completely in both eyes, and how I didn't lose my vision at all is a medical freaking phenomenon mystery. That didn't stop me from being a dad, though. I continued to see my family, and I continued to raise my kids, all of them, including Anastasia and Maddox. It did not matter that his dad did that to me. I love that little boy to this day. Well, he wasn't too happy about that, now was he? So about a month or so later, after I was more or less recovered, people start messaging me, asking me why he's going around calling me a pedophile. Well, gee, because Symphony was going to raise his son with me, and he did not like that. He, as an almost 40-year-old, had been stalking her since she was underage, and Symphony at the time was 20. Who's the pedophile? And he kept doing it until he found somebody who made a false police report. And I was with Sterling. I was taken into custody, and that was the last time I saw my kids. Or her. Or anyone I knew from my past. I did a year and a half in maximum security correctional facility where I lived with serial killers and people who butchered their parents and people who actually raped their kids. And I watched people get hung upside down, wrapped in ripped up bed towels like Spider-Man. They hang you upside down from the friggin' rafters. And they'll hang you upside down onto the stairway, and they will beat you until you piss down your face, and they will leave you there. And they will hog tie you, and they will leave you face down in the shower without any water. Without any heat in the middle of winter until you're hypothermic and barely drowned. And they will laugh at you and leave you there for hours. I didn't go through any of this because everybody there knew I was fucking innocent and I was protected and I made very powerful friends. I dined with the godfather of the fucking vagabond biker gang. Sweet man. Everyone knew I was innocent. $250,000 later, and $10,000 to get the transcripts from my trial, a year and a half in a maximum security facility, followed by a year on house arrest. I got my trial to have this person who made the accusation admit to a judge, sure, we dated, but nothing happened when I was underage. And my lawyer starts pulling his hair out and going, holy Jesus shit, you went through all that for nothing. Yeah, thanks, I know. Appreciate your concern. That's when I met Ashley. I had my life back. I had my freedom, more or less, because of the nature of the crime, or the accusation. I'm still on the National Felony Registry for the next 13 years. I'm on the provincial one for the next 3. Then I get my guns back. Well, guns that take real gunpowder bullets anyway. I don't like loud noises. It sets my complex PTSD off like nothing else. I turn into a terrestrial parrot screaming about killing Nazis and whatnot. You guys have seen my content. Anyway, moving forward. I was guinea pigging myself out to a allergy testing company to be subjected to allergens and then write my medical reports. $100 at a time. And, well, I met Ash a little bit previous to that. We made an introduction, and she reached out to me while I was sitting in the atrium being gassed by friggin' fake goldenrod. And she's like, hey, what's up? How are things? So I told her how it was, and at this time I was suffering absolute hospitalized crippling migraines. And I still had no idea. I couldn't remember any of this. I suppressed all of it. I didn't remember who I was until fucking Halloween last year. I crammed it with $6,000 of psilocybin through my system, and LSD and DMT and everything else I could fucking do under the sun to heal my head. Back chronological order. So yeah, Ash and I knew of each other, but we weren't friends until this time. And she messages me and she's like, you know what, I got a better way for you to heal yourself, and I got a better way for you to make some money. Come work with me at Elemental Growth. And she introduced me to cannabis. She got me off a 22-year-long video game addiction. I sold all my video games and tech shit to pay her the $1,000 for Reiki practitioner training. And through her, I kind of skipped the part that where I got home from jail. My daughter was then diagnosed with juvenile arthritis, and we were told she's never going to walk a day in her life, get her fitted for a wheelchair. What I say earlier today, women suffer autoimmune diseases based off putting other people's emotional needs before themselves. She was in so much emotional anguish because I was the only parent out of the two that she bonded with. And not only was I taken from her at a ridiculously young age after I was the only parent she friggin' had, then she was left with not only her mother, but my narcissistic drunken Nazi father. No shit, she developed a whole bunch of mental issues that resulted in pain in her body, much like yourself. Well, after work, I'll go in chronological order here. So I start working with that. I'm like, I'm down. Whatever it's gonna take. If you can heal my kid, if you can heal me, if you can get me off, I was Dr. House, only instead of Vicodin, I was popping Advil. I would go through an entire bottle of Advil in a day, sorry. And when you do that, guess what happens? Your lungs fill with fluid and you simulate fucking pneumonia. So I had that going for me too. She got me off the pain meds. Long story short. So I told her, I'll take your first available opening. I don't care when it is. I don't care what time it is. Book it. I'll do it. Whatever it takes. She booked it on Valentine's Day. Can you believe that? Our anniversary, 6 years coming up this Valentine's Day. Based off this story. We got my daughter into remission. We got her off her meds for a brief time. She relapsed, or whatever you want to call it. She's back into remission now, and they're taking her off her Humira injections. She's been being stabbed in the thigh every week since she was 3. She's turning 11 in April. With a cancerous drug that has a 13% mortality rate. That means that out of 100 children that have this drug, 13 die. It's not meant for long-term use. People ask me where my anger comes from. Are you starting to get the picture? And bit by bit, I got rid of my pain issues. I healed a lot of stuff. And I mean only, fully connected the 6 years that I apprenticed under Ashley, and the life of everybody, everything that I just explained to you, only came back to me this October, when I did a Halloween ritual, because I wanted to go look up what ambiguous guilt means. It means that Tristan Peterson died June 14th, 2015. And whatever got created into this little vessel of a body is somewhat very different. His name was Ethan Kane for a long time. Now I'm going to go with Scarlet Fox, or Sigil Ravenwolf. Sigil means, well, it's a magical sigil, much like the Batman emblem, or it's an idea that anybody could do. It doesn't matter who wears it. A magical sigil or magical seal means manifesting dreams into reality. So, when I had my beard down to my belly button, and I was a magical wizard, I went with Sigil Ravenwolf. Ashley's a wolf, Raven's my son. Fox is my spirit animal. Scarlet is Anastasia's middle name, and I have a scarlet rose on my arm that I got in commemoration of Symphony. I tell people it's a love rose for my daughter. It was for Symphony. That's my life. Now, if you will give me one quick second, Deborah, I'm going to make sure this uploads because I don't want to lose that story again. I just told it to my mom, and then I had the tech master, the real Iron Man, agree to do a podcast with me. And very much like the time that I proposed to my best friend, and she actually said yes, and I got so overexcited, my EMF fried the computer, and it blew up, and she had to move in with me the next day because we both needed the computer to do work. And this is the only time I'm ever going to put this correlation together in one story. That was how Elemental Growth was created, with me as their social media manager. Now, 1 second. Ashley drew that for me too when we started dating.